Hi, I'm John Schroeder, and welcome to another edition of Cayce Clips. This is where we offer a quick overview on a difficult subject based on our understanding of the psychic readings of Edgar Cayce. Today we want to talk about when bad things happen to good people. Now, most people believe that God is fair and just, so when something happens to us or to a loved one that seems very unfair, that can shake us to our core. Now, the traditional Christian answer to that question, why bad things happen to good people, usually has an answer like, it is impossible to understand the mind of God, but rest assured that God will bring all things into balance into eternity. And I assume that they're talking about your eternal destination of what happens to you in heaven or hell. Well, what happens if we believe in reincarnation in a case like that? Reincarnation is very helpful in terms of letting us know that we have an infinite number of chances, as many as we need, to be able to get it right, to make loving choices, and to play well with others. But that also makes us responsible for everything that happens to us in the current life. And that is the truth, but there's more to it than that. As usual, Jesus was the perfect role model for helping us to be able to discern the truth here. You understand that he willingly put himself in harm's way to be of service to others. So the Roman soldiers arrested him and took him back to be beaten and a crown of thorns on his head, have to carry the cross up to Mount Calvary, crucified him, and ultimately murdered him. And he was without sin. So apparently you can have bad things happen to good people. In his case, without having sinned or set up something that he had to reap what he had sown. Now, why did that happen? Because he willingly put himself in harm's way to be the perfect role model for us all. He came into the earth to live that life and understood and allowed himself to be treated as the Roman soldiers treated him in order to be able to help us all to see how you react with a position, with an understanding, and with the choice of saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So let me test that concept with a very difficult scenario, child molestation. Let's say that a child is born into a family with the father as a molester. Now, from the aspect of reincarnation, if they have been a molester in the past and they come into this life, then they are simply reaping what they have sown, and all is in balance. All is fair at that point, and you should learn your lesson by trying to see that you shouldn't do this as you have done it to others. But how would an innocent child who's never molested anyone end up in a family like that? Well, go back to the example of Jesus, in which you can have a child choose willingly to come into the family of a molester to be able to help the father to overcome their desire and tendency to molest. The best understanding that I have of this is like magnets. You know, when you take a magnet and you have ferrous metal and the two are drawn together, even two magnets are drawn together, that there's this irresistible force that says this is going to happen. But if you were to take a magnet and say a piece of aluminum being a non-magnetic or ferrous metal, doesn't have the attraction to the magnet. The magnet's still trying to draw things to it, but the aluminum or non-ferrous metal doesn't draw it, and so there isn't this strong attraction between the two. Now, if you look at karma and the law of attraction, with this child coming into the family without sin, in terms of being a molester, comes into that lifetime in order to help the molesting soul. Because there's not this strong draw and this strong attraction, what happens is it gives the molester the best opportunity to choose not to molest their child. And if you can build on that success experience, they can learn to not molest anyone. And therefore they're making more loving decisions, and they needed to have a success experience to make that happen from the beginning. So it really does work out that you have a much better situation when an innocent child comes in to help that person. But what happens when the father molests anyway? Even the innocent child can look at that and think, if they believe in reincarnation, oh my gosh, I must have done that to someone else in my past. I'm a horrible person and I deserve this, and it just goes into a downward spiral. So what is the answer that we would have to the innocent child that goes through that? Actually, Jesus had that perfect answer, and it happened with the adulterous woman when he said, "Neither do I condemn thee, go forth and sin no more." Jesus is not interested in any of the sins or lack of sins in this case. As far as what's happened in the past, we need to go into that situation and see it for what it is. And that is that we are to go ahead and forgive if we have condemned and move forward from that point in love and happiness and not allow it to have a negative effect on our lives. Now, that's also the same information that works for the guilty child, if you want to compare the innocent and guilty in that situation, because it doesn't matter what they did in the past. In terms of sinning, what they need to do is to forgive, move forward in love and happiness for the rest of their lives. There's no difference in the advice of whether the child was innocent or guilty. And the most important part of that is to understand that we no longer need to take that information onto us as far as, did I do this or did I not do this in the past? You can just go forward as if this doesn't matter what happened in the past, whether I'm innocent or guilty of what the bad thing is that happened to me in this case, and I can just forgive and move on in love and happiness. So when bad things happen to good people, we should not dwell on the why that leads to tragedy and the sorrow that goes along with that. Instead, we need to improve our efforts to make loving choices, forgive others, and manifest the fruits of the Spirit. Keeping the focus on love melts away all the fear, guilt, and shame that can hold us back. I'm John Schroeder, and we welcome your questions and comments here at Cayce Clips, the YouTube channel. Next time, I want to talk to you about psychics predicting the future and why such predictions seem to be so hit or miss. Until then, remember that God loves you with an everlasting love.